Welcome to this week's episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast, where experienced professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders based in Kingston upon Thames are invited on to share their story with us. I'm your host, Amir Rocha Lima.
This week's episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast is brought to you by Holland Harlan Wills, a financial planning and wealth management firm based in Kingston upon Thames. Holland Harlan Wills specialises in retirement planning for senior professionals and successful business owners. Visit hhw-uk.com to start feeling more relaxed and confident about your financial future.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast. I'm joined today by Jason Turner. Jason and his business partner Ian Whittingham are the owners of Sigma Sports, an independent bike shop that has raised the bar for the industry. What's interesting about Jason and Ian is that their story is one of two entrepreneurs who began making their own luck as teenagers with freight ferry crossings from Belgium in a Vauxhall Nova filled with bicycle components. It's a story of expansion from Saturday morning sales from Turner's bedroom to a 9,000 square foot former office block converted to a destination store at the cost of £1 million. So whether you're interested in the world of cycling or want to know more about running a successful independent retail store, then I hope you enjoy this episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast. Welcome, Jason Turner, to the Inside Kingston Podcast. I'm really excited about this conversation because there are many facets of the world of cycling and of running a successful retail store, which I'm really interested in and I'd like to hear your thoughts on. But to kick this conversation off, I wanted to go back in time, if that's okay.
Sure.
Where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up? I grew up in North Wales.
In North Wales,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Well, most of my time there, but I also spent some time in Cyprus and
Fantastic.
Lincolnshire. Dad was in the RAF, so we moved around a bit.
Wow, amazing. And did you get to do much cycling growing up? Was cycling a part of your childhood?
Yeah, very much so, especially being in the countryside. Having a bike gave you freedom to go and explore, go and visit people.
What did you study at college?
It was a number of subjects related to the architectural role, but I was only in employment for 7 months before I left and decided to go another route.
Fantastic. And is that when you met your business partner, Ian?
No, we knew each other originally from Scouts. He didn't go to the same school as me, although he lived around the corner from my house, so I did see him quite a lot. When I left school and went into work, and then subsequently left the job, mainly because for me, I just realised it wasn't what I always wanted to do, and I just felt there was something else out there. So I left. I started doing some temp work to earn money. My friend Ian had gone into a stage agency, and that was going through a bit of a recession, a bit of a bad time, so he was last in and first out. So he ended up going to the same temp agency as me. We ended up working together, and while we did that, we were hatching our plans and exploring ideas about doing our own business. His was more the cycling background. He was a club cyclist. He used to race quite a lot as a junior. And he came up with the idea of, why don't we do something to do with cycling? And I said, well, I ride a bike and I quite enjoy it. So we decided that would be the route that we would go down.
That's amazing. So what we've heard from many of our interviews so far is the role of serendipity sometimes in the history of a business. Tell us a little bit about the history of Sigma Sports. So obviously you and Ian are hatching out these different business ideas. You then strike on cycling to start off with.
That's
How
right.
did you get into the trade of cycling, as it were?
So the industry itself was very small at the time. So the suppliers who were actually importing products were often people working from small industrial units or lockups, or just with a van on the road, or even working from home themselves. I was lucky enough that we had a spare bedroom at home, so my parents were very tolerant and very supportive and allowed me to use the space, so that became our office and our shop eventually. And we would basically just reach out through cycle magazines. Obviously, there was no internet at the time. We reached out through cycle magazines, looked at adverts from American magazines for product that we thought was interesting and could sell in the UK, and pretty much just phoned people up and said, could we take some of your product and sell it in the UK? At the same time, we also heard about Belgium being a very good place to buy bike components. There were big wholesalers over there you could turn up to, and this is where a lot of the UK suppliers were getting stuff at the time. The exchange rates worked really well favourably for the pound against the Belgian franc, so it made the product very cheap. So we explored by going over there and literally having to knock on the door of a bike shop and ask them where they bought their stuff, and kind of reluctantly they gave us a few addresses, and then we go and knock on those doors, and it kind of went from there. Eventually struck up some relationships with people and started buying product, bringing it back, selling it through the back of Cycling Weekly, which is the magazine that had a kind of marketplace at the back where you could put adverts and list all your product. It's a bit of a slow process. You had to write the advert up or type it up and then post it off to them or fax it to them, and then you hope that they would get everything right and put the right product in the right order and put the right prices on. Our first ever advert, they completely missed our phone number off, and didn't even put that we did credit card as well. So people were sending postal orders through the post to us and things like that, which was quite surprising. But that's kind of how it all kicked off.
So from selling cycling gear from the classified columns of the cycling press to this beautiful flagship store here in Hampton Wick.
Essentially, we, after a year of trading from home, we then looked around for retail premises, and we looked in Esher to start with. The cost of rent and rates was pretty high for a high street there, so we started looking around the area and settled on Hinchley Wood originally. Okay. And we were at Station Approach in Hinchley Wood, which was a nice little shop. It's only 400 square feet. We did a lot of the work to do it up ourselves, with a bit of help from Ian's dad. Eventually opened, after working all night and all week long, eventually opened it up and did quite well business-wise there. 4 years we were there, eventually got so full that we decided we must move to another shop because we were bursting at the seams. And we started looking around, originally at Hampton Court, and then as we were driving back from there, we came past Kingston. Well, we were going over Kingston Bridge, and Ian spotted a shop in Hampton Wick High Street that had a to-let board on it. So we had a look at that, and that was our second shop, basically. So we moved into there, and that store grew, took over the flat above. That was our workshop in the flat above. Our mail order, which we were still doing, was being done from the kitchen of the flat, and the basement was being used as a workshop. Eventually we had a small warehouse to back it up, and then that warehouse grew, and then we had a bigger warehouse on the other side of Kingston, eventually one in Molesey, and then now we've got a couple in Esher.
Okay.
But to get to where we are now, there was a bit of intervention from somebody we were introduced to during a bike ride. Actually, Ian was introduced to a designer, local designer, who's a club cyclist, big fan of the store, and he came to us with some ideas of cycle cafe and some good retail ideas. But when I talked to him about the size of the shop that we've currently got, which is only about 1,500 square feet, I said to him, it's quite frustrating having these great ideas coming from you, but with no way of executing them, because we are within these four walls. And if you could maybe get to this place. And I walked him down the road and pointed to this empty DHL, ex-DHL office block, and said, this would make a great bike shop. If you know any way of us getting this, then you can have the job designing it. And he came back and said, well, I've got somebody you might be interested in. And made an introduction to a guy who's now our business partner. And within about an hour or so of meeting us and chatting about our business and where we were going with it and what we were doing. He was pretty excited by the potential.
Oh, wow.
And he said, well, what do you need to take you to the next level? So a little bit of almost Dragon's Den moment, I suppose. Yeah. It was a bit of soul searching for us because having been 50-50 split, myself and Ian, partnership, we had no partnership agreement, we had nothing. It was literally just two friends in business. Going from that to then taking on an investor, selling a good chunk of your business, and then just reinvesting that money back into the business so we could take on this building. It was quite a lot of soul searching to work out if that was the best move. But something I was convinced of is if we hadn't have made that move at that time, I think somebody else would have come along and done something quite amazing shop-wise. So I was really keen for us to be the first to put together an amazing retail experience, and thankfully we did.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hard going, but we got there.
So Jason, I've seen the term a destination store associated with the Sigma Sports shop here in Kingston, and for the benefit of our listeners, we're actually sitting at an office or in an office in the building. Could you tell us a little bit about this experience that you aim to create with the Sigma Sports store as it is today?
Yeah, so the store is not just about presenting the product in a nice environment and selling it to you. There's quite a lot of other things that go with a bike, as you know, workshop and so on. But also bike fitting is a very big part of it. Not just fitting somebody for their bike to make sure they get the right size and to sit them on the bike when they come in and before they take it away. We get them to sit on the bike and make sure the size is correct and so on. So we need space to do that. But also, where we are sat now is one of two bike fit studios we have, where we've got this piece of equipment here, which is a £10,000 jig, which is fully adjustable and can represent any size and position on a bike. Has pressure mapping so that you can see which saddle best suits you. Based on the distribution of weight on each saddle. It gives you the power output, so you can see how efficient you are with your pedalling. So it's quite an involved process and quite an expensive bit of kit to put this together with the cameras that watch the person who's cycling and all the other information and equipment we've got here. But things like this do make it a destination store. A lot of our product you can buy online. We have our own online business, so we happily get involved in that. But there's a lot of things that you do need to go to the store for. Bike fitting, workshop services, a lot of products like shoes and helmets people want to come to the store for because of the issue with sizing, particularly wetsuits, which is something we sell for the triathlon season. And I think generally cyclists are very social people, and they do like to talk about their cycling. So as well as people coming in and transacting, they do like to chat about the rides they're doing, or they might want to get some advice or talk to somebody who's maybe done a similar ride to them to give them some experience, some hints and tips maybe. Also, they like to talk about the equipment and get a bit of advice on it. Reserve and Flex probably been the big thing for us, which is obviously combining our online experience with our in-store experience, and we've luckily managed to crack that, and I think that's really been the driver that's enabled our store to stay pretty buoyant in a place where online has become so prevalent.
Well, it seems to me that perversely, your experience in selling cycling gear through classified ads in the past has almost gone full circle, in that now you graduated from classified ads into a physical store, and now you've almost graduated again from the bricks and mortar experience you've created into having a great online presence as well, which might be the first port of call for a customer that isn't local from the area and doesn't know about Sigma Sports to begin with.
Yeah, definitely the two go hand in hand. I think a lot of research is done online. And then people will then come to the store often armed with quite a lot of information already, and then they'll talk to someone and get advice, and sometimes it might be just confirming what they already know, or they want to see the product physically perhaps before buying it. And especially things like clothing, shoes, people want to try stuff on first. So often with reserve and collect, we might have a reserve and collect for 4 or 5, and one person actually did 17 pairs of shoes.
Wow!
To come in and try them all on. It's a great service, and it seems to work really well, and people seem to really like that side of it.
Makes sense. You guys eventually progressed into sponsorship deals. Could you tell us a little bit about why that happened and why that was important in you building the Sigma Sports brand?
Yeah, we ever since our first shop, we've always ended up supporting local athletes, I say, rather than just cyclists, because we did have a few triathletes as well. And we've quite enjoyed it, for starters. It is good publicity if your athlete does win something or does a good ride or event, then your name gets out there. So for us, it's something we've always done, and we've done it at various levels, from individual riders, maybe just helping them out in between contracts or in between, almost like a stepping stone perhaps to the next level. So we actually had Bradley Wiggins for 1 year riding on one of our bikes, and that was when the Linda McCartney team, which he was in, collapsed. And he didn't have a bike deal or anything set up, so we helped him out for a period of time, which was great. Obviously, at the time, we didn't know what he'd go on to do. There's a number of triathletes, some of them world champions. One of them, Tim Don, is actually in tomorrow, which will be quite interesting, because again, there's that full circle of coming around to do a talk in the store. But he was one of several triathletes who were sponsored by us. We sorted them out bikes, and we had a team car and some various other stuff going on, which was good fun. And it just so happened they all were based in this area, and we had at one point probably several of the top 10 British triathletes racing for us. But again, it was a stepping stone for them. Obviously, as they got bigger and started to do very well on the world stage, then they got bigger contracts with brands and so on.
Yeah.
They became too expensive for us.
I appreciate that, but still, it highlights the importance of, if nothing else, it highlights the importance of brand ambassadors and being aware of what a good brand ambassador can do for your own brand as well. We even got to see Bradley Wiggins sort of fly past the shop here and my office as well.
Yeah, 2012 was a special year because of the Olympics, and having it in London was just incredible. The vibe and the buzz around it was brilliant, but particularly the time trial, because it literally came past the doorstep. The road race actually went over the Kingston Bridge, so it was pretty close anyway. But the actual time trial going right past the door was spectacular. I know for a fact that Bradley has said that it was the noisiest part of the course. I mean, he hardly remembers anything about the rest of the ride. It's all just numbers going through his head. Is he at a certain point at a certain time? What is the watts at the right level? Of the power output. So all of that was just going through his head. So he said he didn't really kind of take in where he was on the course, but he said certainly coming over Kingston Bridge and turning right at the roundabout and going down here, which was absolutely full of cycling fans, which of course not just our staff out there, but all our customers and the local people as well. You can get quite a lot of people on the pavement outside here as well, so it made for a big crowd, and he says it was absolutely deafening, and he really remembers going past the store.
Wow.
He wrote that in his book, and he also mentioned it when he was here doing one of the 2 talks he's done recently. So yeah, really special moment. Yeah.
A great example of this, Jason, was the rise of Sigma Sports men's road team going from Surrey League events to the Tour of Britain. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was probably driven more by Matt Stevens, who, like Bradley, was in the Linda McCartney team, and again when they folded, he ended up riding for us. He wasn't actually going to carry on riding at one point, but he did end up riding for us. We didn't give him any pressure or any goals. It was just, his bike, you can crack on, here's some kit, go and ride, try and win some races. And he went off and then came back to us and said, can we put together a bit of a team? We've got a few good riders out there that could come on board. Did that for a couple of years, and then he started talking about stepping it up a level. So over a period of about 10 years, the level kept getting stepped up. And as the team got bigger, we managed to attract a little bit more in the sponsorship because we couldn't do it ourselves by any means. So we got bigger brands on board. We managed to get things like the bikes covered, and then a bit of money to cover costs and some of the event fees and so on. And it just built up from there. It was kind of quite a snowball, but it gathered momentum. And eventually we got to the point where we were riding in the Tour Series, the town centre races, and also in the Tour of Britain.
Wow.
But we were certainly the underdog, but we were also quite plucky and known as being quite a tenacious team. So we certainly gave it a go where we could. But it was quite funny being on. So I've been in the team car a couple of times, helping out on a couple of stages, and you kind of get to see the behind the scenes. And it's quite funny when you're a camper van that you've borrowed. It's parked up next to the team coaches of the other teams with the bigger budgets. That does put it into perspective then. But we gave it the best shot, and we got pretty well known for getting out there and having a go. It was good while it lasted. I think we went out on a high. And we went from that to, rather than going back into the pro team, which is, as you appreciate, a lot of money and a lot of effort, we settled with doing a couple of smaller amateur teams. So we've got a women's team and a men's team out there at the moment. And good thing about it is that the people who work, who have to balance home life, some of them have got families, so they've got to balance family life with work life, with training. And these guys and girls ride at a pretty reasonable level. And I think that on social media gives, and through the other channels, just gives a little bit more meaning to those people who read about it, because they can relate a bit more to those athletes. And they've done pretty well, and they do get a guest ride in the Tour Series. They've done some events where they're televised as well, so we're still getting some good coverage out of it. And it's still good to be involved in supporting the sport through those two teams.
Being that cyclists are fairly social creatures, it allows for a different gamut of age and gender and everything to get involved together and enjoy a ride or enjoy talking about a particular race they saw together or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, it's as we both said, it's a very, very social sport. And it has attracted all sorts. They do talk about the mammal, being the middle-aged man in lycra. Of course, there's plenty of those, but there's a lot of women now riding, which is great. You see lots of them out in the Surrey Hills at the weekend. There's youngsters as well that are getting into it, I guess influenced by success of the Olympics and some of the other sporting successes we've had in cycling as well, and Tour de France wins, etc. It's for everyone, young, old. It seems to keep you young. We get plenty of customers who are certainly in their later years, and as I say, they're pretty fit, and some of them can certainly give some of the younger ones a run for their money.
I see that you guys are quite active on social media, and by social media I don't just mean posting a tweet or something on Facebook. It seems to me that you guys get the team here involved in product unpacking videos, product walkthrough videos. You obviously bring well-known cyclists into the store for interviews, which you then put on the internet as well. Could you just tell me a little bit about how you create or think about creating a community for the brand online and with social media?
Yeah, this is something we were always keen to do, is to talk to our customers on through a number of different channels about cycling, about interesting things. And trying to make it not just about transactional stuff or discount codes, or there's a new offer or whatever. A lot of people are interested in new product, of course, and that is a point of interest. But it's also talking about some of the other things, places to ride, how to put together kits and how to best dress on the bike, or so lots of different things like that, and also about the actual sporting side of it, about the athletes, about what they're doing behind the scenes. Works really well. People are quite interested to see behind the scenes of a factory or a supplier of ours, how this stuff actually gets made and comes together. So that side of it is definitely of interest. So we put together a team of people who are responsible just for the social side. So we've got Lucy, who's becoming quite famous in her own right, doing a lot of the unboxing videos and some of the product presentations. So she does a lot of the social media stuff, putting the posts out there. We've got Dan, who heads up that, and again, he's a familiar face. He's done quite a lot of travelling around to some interesting places and done some talks and rides and loads of posts. And we've got two really good video guys as well, who put together some brilliant footage. They bought a drone, so we've got aerial shots. Wow. They've got some really cool camera kit. He rides around on his bike with a camera around his neck, and they're a pretty dedicated team. And I think also by having a dedicated team to that side of it, rather than somebody doing it as a second job when they've got something else to distract them, I think it's worked really well. And also for us, it started to open doors. We've got invites from various teams or various people to get behind the scenes.
Oh, wow.
And that's been really good. I mean, the team had a pass at Paris-Roubaix to ride ahead of the race, which you just don't get things like that normally. Team Sky invited them to do it behind the scenes. There's some really cool stuff that we've had access to. And I think by having a good team, a good dedicated team in delivering that, they've seen that we've put together some good quality stuff, and I think that's really opened those doors for us.
For a newbie, navigating their way through a store like this can be a little bit intimidating. Could you tell us a bit about Sigma Sport's something for everyone approach?
Yeah, so it has changed over the last few years. Certainly when we first put this store together, it was a very difficult time for us. It was a new store. We had to take on new staff as well. We had a new website at the same time and a new stock control system. So we had a lot of challenges, and I think it was really difficult for us to deliver the standard of customer service that we do now, hopefully deliver. And one of the issues that we had, I think also having this very nice store that was designed by a professional designer, and I think it even won an award in Retail Week as well. So brilliant design, but you put these bikes in here and people come in and they see the price tickets of a $5,000 bike or a $10,000 bike, and it's in this lovely environment, and it probably does feel a bit intimidating. And certainly we got tarred with the sort of elitist brush a few times in the early years. So in the early years of being here, and it was quite difficult to kind of break that. So we did end up at one point putting a lot of lower price point bikes in key places, so that people were exposed to cheaper price points, to try and kind of get that message across that we do sell bikes for £500-600 upwards. So you could come in here as a newbie, as you say, and you'll get good customer service in terms of making sure that bike fits you and you get the right equipment to go with it and so on. But it was quite difficult to try and turn that around. But it does seem to have changed a bit. I think people now, a few years later, are more accepting of bikes being presented in a really nice way, in a really nice environment. Quite a few other businesses have popped up, cycle cafes and so on, that are nice retail design, really nice displays, some quite high-end gear. So I think people are a bit more used to it now. And also the price point, interestingly enough, the average price point for bikes that we sell has gone up over the last couple of years. So perhaps people are just prepared to spend a bit more on their bikes. Maybe it's the people who originally came into cycling, perhaps as a result of Olympic success, and now going on to buy their second bike and spending a bit more. Cycle scheme is a big driver for us. It's about £1,000 price point, so that was a really good scheme that did push quite a lot of business into us, and I'm sure plenty of other bike shops as well. I should give them a mention. The management team here, Ed Hull, the shop manager and assistant manager, Harry Ford. They're a great team. They're constantly on the guys and girls downstairs to make sure that they are delivering good customer service, they are meeting and greeting, they are looking after their customers. So we do try really hard on that front. If we do get it wrong, we jump on it straight away and try and sort it out. And I think that does make the customer feel at ease once they walk into a place, even somewhere like here that's probably still intimidating to the newbie. Then if you greet them pretty quickly after coming in, then that hopefully puts people at ease a bit more.
Yeah.
They don't feel they're in the wrong place or they're out of place.
Absolutely. You mentioned the Olympics there, Jason. So during the Olympics, Sigma Sports had the cycling time trials on large screens for people to enjoy. And you guys obviously created a big buzz in the community with that initiative. There were literally hundreds of people outside the shop here following the time trials. And it obviously had a great impact for you as a business, because the men's Olympic time trial passed right in front of your store, and in fact right in front of our office as well, because we happen to be across the road from each other. Could you tell me a little bit more about how Sigma Sports gets involved with the community?
Yeah, so that's something we've done pretty much since the beginning. Though in the beginning it was really myself and Ian going out for a bike ride and a few customers coming along. So it went from that to being perhaps a little bit more organised, and now we have fully organised rides. People have to sign up just so that they then get the email that gives them all the information, and also the disclaimer in there and so on, for a couple of things like that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it works really well. Obviously people engage with you more. It could be good for people who perhaps don't know where to ride. Well, we've had that quite a lot, where people come riding with us because they're not sure where to ride, or they just want to ride somewhere new. And of course, we're doing the route for them. So people like to tag along for that reason. It might be people wanting to learn to ride in a group, or to just get more experience riding in a group. Or they could be just doing it because they want to be social and ride with other cyclists. But it works really well. We do various rides. We've done women-specific rides in the past. We do themed rides where it might be tied in with a brand. That brand could be maybe letting people try products. So, for example, we had Oakley do a ride with us. So they had a load of test glasses, and they could swap your sunglasses with their ones, so you could try them out for half the ride and then swap them back again, just to see what the product's like. So there's things like that we've done. We've even done things like the Christmas ride, and we've treated everyone to a coffee and a mince pie halfway around the ride. So we do little things like that every now and then, just to add a bit of fun to it. So they work really well. The rides, definitely. The other sort of community thing that we try and do is the events and stores. I mentioned Tim Don coming in, so it could be a rider or an athlete like Tim Don. Brownlee Brothers have been in, Bradley Wiggins has been in as well. So having those kind of people come in and talk to a relatively small audience, 100 odd people, that's really nice. People can get up quite close and talk to them afterwards and get autographs, etc. We've done other more educational type talks where it might be, for example, Ride London, which is a really big local event. Preparing for Ride London, we've done that in association with Majinga, who are a spin studio around the corner. So those sort of things work really well. I mean, we're open to kind of any idea, really. We've tried some that haven't worked so well, and we've done some that have been really successful. Often combining it with food and some beers, and we've had quite a few of the local breweries get involved in that. So that works really well.
So Jason, there's no doubt that, like, and this is genuine, your story, even in a nutshell, just it absolutely speaks volumes to starting with an idea in mind. Granted, some of it was a bit of a passion for you and Ian, cycling, but then just working hard on it and being creative about it year after year after year after year. So nowadays, do you get a chance to reflect about a little bit about the story of Sigma Sports up until now? And what are some of the the sort of business lessons that you can draw from that?
Yeah, day to day you don't really reflect on it too much. You tend to just get on with the job in hand. It's only when you perhaps sit and have conversations like this where you think, oh yeah, that's quite a journey. You start reeling off athletes that you've been involved with, and you think there's quite a few athletes there, and so So when you do reflect back on it, it does make you feel proud. Certainly, makes you realise what a journey you've had as well. I think some of the things that we've learned along the way is, we have tried to focus on keeping sort of fairly true to our roots. I mean, we were very much about road cycling and about custom building a bike. Things have changed a bit now, where you tend to buy a bike off the shelf because there's so many options and they are so good now. But we still do bespoke building and custom building as well, so we've kept that at our kind of core. We have deviated slightly from road because things like gravel bike riding or adventure riding have come out. So we do those bikes. Online we do a little bit of off-road and some kids' bikes and so on, but in store it is kind of still what we originally set out. So I think sticking to what you set out to do has definitely worked for us. There's lots of things that tempt you off in different directions. I think also being very flexible and being very nimble as a company. Of course, when you've got less layers of management to have to work through, and you can get in a room and sit down with the people who need to make the decisions, and you can say, right, we've got a problem, or we need to do this, or we need to do that. You can very quickly make a decision, and you can steer your business in the right way accordingly. So being nimble definitely has helped us. There was a point where when we moved to this store and turnover went up, but we ended up just being flat for about 4 years. And we thought maybe this will stay as a showroom where people will come and look at bikes, they'll buy bikes, they'll use the workshop, they'll buy a few things that are size related, like the shoes and helmets I mentioned earlier. But we thought maybe we have to turn the store into more of a cycling community hub, have a cycle cafe and have it more promoting our online business. But things came together, and I think, as I said earlier, the reserve and collect was a key driver. And as all that came together and our marketing seemed to focus more on the store, suddenly we started doing better at the shop, and the retail side has actually grown and grown ever since, until probably about 2 years ago. It changed and we tipped the balance, and now the retail store's doing so well. I mean, we've got definitely no plans to put any kind of cafe or anything. We need more floor space for retail, actually. But I'm not sure where we're going to go with that other than to build on the roof. So, things can change. Retail has changed massively over the last several years. So since we moved into this store, it's very much been more about discounting and more value for money and speedier deliveries and click and collect next day, if not same day. So we've had to react to those kind of things, and we've had to listen to customers and look at where retail's going and kind of follow that. Yeah, we get plenty of customers who will browse in store and then buy online. We get plenty who will search online and then buy in store, and plenty that will do both as well. Yeah. So it does, and you do have to make sure the online experience kind of feels like the store, and the store also has the efficiencies of online. So it really does have to cross over. And the good thing is, on our online side of the business, we do seem to be pretty hot at making sure that we've got good customer service. You can phone people up. The customer service team's actually based in Esher, and they are pretty much, all of them are all cyclists, they're all passionate. They know their product, so you can ring them up, you can do live chat, you can email them. They'll be there to answer those calls, deal with those inquiries. Head up by a great manager there, Tom, and his wife Fiona. And we've also got the warehouse, so the actual fulfilment side is actually in Grantham. We were a bit lacking on warehouse space in Esher. Also, the cost, as you appreciate around here, for warehouse space is pretty high. And for us, logistically, we didn't need to have a warehouse locally. So we've got a warehouse a couple of years ago in Grantham, and that has really helped the efficiency of our online business and allowed us to do a lot more and a lot more efficiently as well.
Jason, what next for Sigma Sports? Any projects in the pipeline that you can tell us about?
I don't know if I can talk about that. Well, it's really just about being consistent. I mean, we want to carry on growing our kind of media side of things and looking for more and more exciting opportunities and more great content to deliver to people. Our online business can keep growing, hopefully. So we've got plenty of infrastructure there, plenty of room for growth. So we're kind of set up there. So definitely growing that side of the business is a priority. The store, there's probably not too much more growth we can do at the store. It has grown, but where that's going to go, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, we'll just have to see. At the moment, we are coping. We are delivering the bikes. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks at peak season, but we are trying our best to keep those lead times down to a minimum. So we could, if we can improve on lead times and just be a little bit more efficient in the store to make sure that we can cope with any extra business that comes in. The store itself, it's a few years old now. It's 7 years old here. We have made a few changes to it along the way, but we are working with another designer to do a few little changes here and there. They'll probably be fairly subtle, but you mentioned earlier about navigating around the store. So that's one of the projects we want to do, is have better navigation so that people can wayfind around the store a lot easier. Perhaps changing the look and feel of certain areas, introducing a few new materials. Nothing too radical, but just a little freshen up here and there wouldn't go amiss. We're looking at electronic point of sale, so a couple of cool tech ideas like that. But nothing radical. No new stores or anything like that.
Yeah, evolution, not revolution. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
As we start to wrap up, I'd like to ask you a few quick fire questions that our listeners seem to always be interested in. So firstly, what do you do to relax outside of the office?
When I can, I do like to ride a bike. I actually like mountain biking and gravel riding as well as road riding. I don't get so much time to do mountain biking, but I have in the past. But mainly road riding or some evening gravel rides. I quite enjoy that. Which is good because it gets you off the road. It's a bit quieter through the trees and the countryside. It's a bit nice to hear the birds singing and so on. So that's quite relaxing. So yeah, cycling when I can, but otherwise just family life is enough to keep you occupied outside of work. 2 children, dog, endless list of things to do around the house. So there's always something going on.
Is there a movie or a TV series that you've recently watched that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Currently watching Fleabag, which is quite funny, quite amusing. Anything else is probably all the popular stuff that people like anyway. Game of Thrones I really like. Been watching Killing Eve, which has been really good as well.
Very good series.
All those box sets. Again, that's kind of revolutionary, isn't it, in the TV world? I don't think anyone now sits down and just watches scheduled programs. It's all about the box set or movies on demand, etc.
Finally, Jason, where can people go to find out more about you and your business?
First port of call would be the website.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an evolving thing, so we are looking at making a new version of that website for, I think, later this year. We have just done an app, which is quite exciting. So that actually works quicker than the mobile site. So we're trying to encourage people to use that app. People like video content, so the YouTube channels, really, really strong as well. I think people just like, now with download speeds being a lot better and you can see things on your phone a lot easier. People do like the video stuff, definitely. So we do a lot of that.
And for the benefit of our listeners, I'll link up to all of those channels in the show notes. Jason, thank you for joining us here on the Inside Kingston podcast. It's been a pleasure to get to know your story.
Thank you very much.
That wraps up another episode of the Inside Kingston podcast. Make sure to check out our guests' website, pay them a visit, and help spread the word about what they're doing. If you have any questions or know someone who should be a guest on the show, please feel free to get in touch. I would also love it if you could go to iTunes and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. We work hard to bring on some great guests, and getting a review from you is one way to help the podcast rate well on iTunes so that others can find and enjoy the show too. Thanks for listening.